Welcome back, everybody, for a very, very special episode of the Lookout Podcast. This is episode 60.
Yeah.
Wow. 60 of them things. First of all, I am Meelz. I am here with the Platinum Chanel boy himself, Jeff.
Yes,
we
sir.
are
What's
here.
going on, buddy?
First of all, we're very excited about this interview that we're about to have.
We are.
I don't know if we are very excited. So without further ado, I think one of the people that I've looked and it was like, I want to talk to him. I want to interview him. Like, I've legitimately gone out and, and it's managed to work out, and I'm very, very happy for it. So I want to first introduce this podcast. Voice actor. I'm sure there's a million other things you're talented at as well. But Zeno Robinson, welcome to the Lookout, my friend.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Honestly, quick question: is there anything else that you're good at, voice acting and/or acting beyond that?
I mean, I dabble in like other things here and there. Like acting is the main thing, but like I've dabbled in like music. I dabble in writing. Like those are things that I'm also interested in. Like I just like creativity, like creation, making things.
That's awesome.
One creative to another. I think we kind of get the same satisfaction, from creating as well. With that said, I mean, the first thing I kind of want to talk about is kind of how have you been? I know this kind of last 2 weeks in the world has been, it's been crazy. Like, quite honestly, you look at your timeline and I'm like, you know what? Right on, brother. You know what I'm saying? Like,
no, man. Yeah, you have been representing like to the fullest, man. Like a lot of respect.
But I just want to know kind of like how you feel and how have you kind of felt about the world over the last 2 weeks and kind of movements and protest and just news and tragedy and what we have done kind of, or what we're trying to do in the midst of all this. How have you kind of felt about things?
Honestly, I think it's just absolutely exhausting. I think like there's so many things that people already have to deal with like especially like with the pandemic and like kind of rebalancing your brain or to adjust to being home all the time and working from home. And I personally very much liked the home and work separation, right? Like I could leave my home and go to work and go somewhere else. And then you're just gonna sprinkle on a little layer of racism on top of it.
Make it worse, right?
Just a dash of racism to add on it. So I think that just makes it doubly exhausting because it's the harsh reality that even in a global worldwide pandemic, people still find the time to be racist. Like at a time where it would probably be like not the best time, right? Like there are other things that you could be doing. Like America will still find ways to murder Black people no matter what's going on in the world. And I think that's like the saddest thing about it. And I just think everybody's tired. And I think I'm very reactionary sometimes, especially with stuff like this, stuff that I just think is like really wrong. And I just think it just makes me angry. So I take that anger, and whether I'm at a protest or you know what I mean, whether I'm at a protest or whether I'm direct tweeting the LAPD.
You're using your platform, man. You're using your platform. It's a good thing.
I'm trying to, and I think a lot of creatives, a lot of other actors, not a lot because I've seen a lot of people speaking out, but I think a lot of us in the back of our minds are scared, because a lot of us worry that if we say the wrong thing, we do the wrong thing in a time where everything you say and do, once you put it on the internet, is kind of there forever. Like, will we lose opportunities? Like, will we be not cast for something? Will we not considered or be ignored for something because we, in the eyes of the public, are too radical or too outspoken, too controversial? Right. So a lot of people will like to be, would think it'd be safer to be quieter. And I think that's the anxiety that I think will only Black people will have, like in speaking out, like in stuff like this. because it could make us look like we're angry, which we are, but it'll make us look like, I don't know. I think we just have this fear that we're always
of course,
vilified.
I feel like 100%, and just in kind of even. I also do a podcast on reality TV. I do many podcasts, and kind of like, I remember back in the day, like a stereotypical thing. It's like, oh, I'm not trying to be the angry black man or the angry black woman in this entire thing. And it's like, it's crazy. That's kind of like stereotyped in it, but yeah, it's like, we are angry and we are expressing ourselves. And I think and I think kind of as a nation, I mean, we would hope that things are moving in the right direction. I mean, we've kind of hoped that would happen. I mean, how many various events, slavery abolished, Jim Crow, everything kind of moving forward. We kind of hope that events would kind of bring us into a much better state. But, we've realized that America itself has still so much to do and still so much progress to actually make in these type of things. But yeah, we're angry, and the entire world is angry. And I think one of the most beautiful things have been the awareness that a lot of people, including yourself, have done with your platform, reaching out and kind of spreading this information and spreading it too. You're very, from what I've seen, I follow you as well. And you have a very great relationship with the anime community and people who love you and people who are just fans of you. I've never in my, even growing up, watching all these episodes of Dragon Ball Z, watching all these other things, I've never even considered the fact, are any of these voice actors actually black?
That was definitely a thing. I know me growing up, I didn't think that was even possible for me to do. You know what I mean? That was definitely something that turned us on to this whole situation and getting you on here to just talk about things, because it's just important. Like, representation is very important.
And I agree. And that's kind of the crux of the whole reason why, I do anime. And, I had a feeling that would be how a lot of people felt, because, since I'm behind the scenes and I've had a lot of internal discussions with other actors about this, and I would tell them, I was just I just don't think people actually know. I don't think I'm pretty sure there are, because there's some people who look behind the scenes at everything. But I think, for some people, for some audience members, they're just trying to watch the show. They don't really, as long as the performance is good, they don't really mind who's behind the mic, you know. But for me, when representation is important to me, and, I love anime and I want to see myself as the hero, or I want to play the hero. And, and I see that, a lot of those opportunities aren't coming my way, especially when I started. It's who's playing this person then? And who's playing that person? And that character's black. Why isn't their actor? So that's kind of the whole. It's a big reason why I do what I do.
Can I tell you the first instance of when I heard, when I could specifically hear a voice actor and watch an anime, I was like, that's a black man. And it came. I'm 30 years old. This comes 29 years into my damn life, where I legitimately hear, all right, so I'm watching the dub of Dragon Ball Super. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
we reached the Universal Survival arc, and we get to first of all, we get to Toppo and Dispo, and I'm just Top and Dispo. I guess Top and Dispo. I'm so used to calling him Toppo because of the manga and stuff like that. But Top and Dispo, and I get to Top, and I'm like, that's a black man. That and then you get the Dispo, and you nah, that's really a black.
That's really a black. Yeah,
that man is black.
Yeah. And at some point, it's I've never even considered it before. But then I think those kind of conversations, and we talked about it when we talked about those series of episodes. Well, I think we kind of revisited that whole arc later on, and we talked about the English voices, and we looked at it, and I see Ray Hurd and gosh, the Dispo's voice actor is escaping me currently, but I see those voice actors and I'm like, yo, we really need to reach out to them. We really need to because I'm sure they have a story that's different than anybody else's and has this kind of, but has the same experience, has the same experience as everyone else watching anime, but it's wanting to see themselves across the screen and managing to be able to cross that boundary and cross that line. So that's why, people like you are just kind of so important to not only just the culture, but like kind of proving like, oh, all types of worlds, all types of walks of life, we can kind of do this and we can kind of provide this. So yeah, I mean, it's a very tumultuous time in the world right now. And I think exhausting is the greatest way to put it, because I can remember last week, I mean, we powered through our podcast, but at the same time, it's like, bruh,
Meelz and I had discussions, outside of, just doing our shows and how we felt, just personally with each other, tapping in with each other and make sure we straight. But, it was important for us to, keep going and making these shows and kind of getting people, take a little time out, if you will, discuss some things with us, keep the anime going, talk about Pokemon, whatever it is, because sometimes, like you said, it's extremely draining. It's exhausting. If we already have a high, level of anxiety in this country, in this world in general. So, making sure that we had a platform to at least take people's mind off of it for 45 minutes, an hour, that's important to us.
And that's kind of how I saw it too, like in working, because, I find myself working. I've been working a lot lately now, like with at-home recording, and, recordings take longer because of the technology and, for efficiency's sake.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, well, the world's crazy, but at least, for the next 3 or 4 hours, I can live in this other world, and keep and provide something that when it's out, in these conditions, that people can look to as kind of like an escape or a light.
Yeah, of course. So, speaking kind of all of how the kind of world situation is kind of like maybe changed the plan a little bit and kind of like reformatted our plans and things. But I was, of course, doing some research before I do this, because obviously, what a great host, what a great journalist,
right?
A bit of research. So, of course, I go on YouTube. I look at past interviews of you and things like that, just so I'm not like trampling over the same questions that you get over and over again. Not that they're bad. I'm sure people want to know these questions, but I see you on a Zoom call with one of the other things, and I see this giant kind of thing behind you. Is that your recording thing? Is that the room?
Yeah, the giant. It's like blue, like it's like an indigo.
Yeah.
That's my booth.
Wow.
Yeah, it's my
homemade
home booth. Yeah, I made it like maybe the first or second week of coronavirus, maybe the week before places started shutting down. I built it. I had some help, but yeah, I built it.
Jesus Lord,
that's awesome.
First of all, that's awesome, but it's huge.
Yeah,
I have so many just inquisitive things about voice acting, because I think it's something that we all kind of, I mean, we know that people are speaking behind these things, but you don't know the actual process, and you don't know unless you're like a super like going deep anime fan who we're attending all the panels and stuff like that and going through all these things. But like, how has this entire COVID thing kind of affected? Is it sort of now more so the speed of the operation is slowed down, or just the experiences? Is it just, how is this entire COVID thing kind of affected a lot of like what you do?
I think everybody's experience is definitely different and singular. Like some people love working from home because they like being at home, and they have a great setup and they have a great booth and they like being in their booth, and they get in their booth, they do their thing, and they go make dinner and watch Netflix.
Right. Like, is there a producer with you, by the way? I have so many.
Typically you'll have an engineer like over watching or monitoring on some outside program or listening in, right? So that's Zoom or Source Connect, which are two like Zoom's like a the audio video.
Yes, of course. Zoom is the stock for Zoom. I feel bad now.
It's going on, right?
It's good. So it's so popular. Everybody's trying to do it now. Like Google has a Hangouts thing now. Microsoft has Teams. But sometimes there's like TeamViewer where everybody can see everybody's screens, or there's like Source Connect, which is like internet based communication. And you can capture audio directly from the Source Connect stream. So usually you'll have a producer monitoring you in some way over the internet to make sure you don't peak, to tell you when to turn down your gain, or you know what I mean, or to troubleshoot any kind of engineer problems that can come up.
Right.
And then, but so for me, usually the COVID thing has kind of changed, like I said, because I'm just at home a lot now. Like all my sessions are I'm doing them in the booth. And like I'm connecting with directors or producers or engineers over one of those programs. And yeah, we just kind of record it. We go over it. I record a backup on my end, and then I send it over. Like I send over my files that I record in my mic. So they have two different ways of editing. It's definitely a longer, complicated process, and it puts a little more responsibility on the actor, which is, I think, like my biggest thing is like I very, very much just like focusing on the art and the work and acting and the best performance. But as an actor, especially everything going on in the world, like sometimes you can't just do that. Like now you have to worry about like, are you on mic? Like, is your levels at a high enough? You know, is your gain at a high enough or a low enough so that, you know, you don't peak or you're not too low? Praying your DAW doesn't crash, you know, like praying that whatever program you're recording into doesn't crash. So saving all the time, you know, a lot of stuff that would in I guess quote unquote normal life or ordinary circumstances be left up to somebody else to do.
Well, in the end, it may make, you know, your craft even more sharper when you're actually, you know, back in a building or back in an actual, you know, recording studio, because, you know, you've done all these things on your own that you normally would have somebody else assisting you with. It, you know, it could be very nice for you later on.
Yeah, it's a good lesson in like knowing yourself and knowing yourself on a technical level, right? It's go, oh, I think I was too low on that, or I think I was too high on that take, or, you know, I came in too hot, or how far to stand back. You know, there's a and that's just even for like auditions and things like that. I've learned a lot about like technology.
Zeno, first of all, I want to ask, how does one get started in voice acting? How does one? I'm not that I'm an aspiring voice actor. I mean, I do an impression here and there.
Listen. Every once in a while, Meelz will jump on here, and you know he'll hit his piccolo voice or his Deku voice or something of that nature, and I'm like, you know what, Meelz, that was pretty good, dude. I'm not gonna lie to you, you know. So he's interested.
I watch a lot of anime. I watch a lot of so, but how does one get started in voice acting, just in general? Is it like a secret society that, you know, that we can only trust, like that only believes in trust? Like, what is it?
I think it looks like that from the outside looking in.
It does a little bit, yeah.
Because all the voice actors know each other, so we're all we're you know,
multiple projects, all these other things,
camaraderie with each other. I think anime houses specifically, because those are like studio based, right? Like a lot of the same actors just kind of circulate because, you know, studios share resources or actors share resources. Oh, you're working here, you should also submit over there to that studio, and that person has experience playing a couple leads at this studio, so that other studio is like, oh well, you know how to do, you know how to work, come on over. And you know, there's like so many other things like union status, you know, so like a lot of the you know, if you're union or if you're non-union, it determines on like, so that dictates kind of what studios you're going to be working at primarily, right? That's why you see like a lot of like, you know, the different circles or the same circles in the specific project you usually see. So to get started, like it's really, and every voice actor is going to say it, but like it's mostly about acting, like taking acting classes, which there are voice acting classes, you know, there are voice acting specific acting classes, but there are also acting classes with a focus on voice acting. So I think it's really just that, like taking classes so that you can work on a demo to put out to the world or to submit to agencies to represent you, to then go or to submit to studios to get opportunities. That's like the biggest thing.
And from a more technical aspect, in terms of your actual voice itself, I know for like Hawks or something, it's kind of closer to your voice. Like it's kind of closer, like you kind of sound like Hawks right now, like kind of chilling. You're very Hawks-esque. But for something like Super Alloy Blackluster, where you're like, hey man, like, you know, like one of those type of things, like, are you trying to, or would you rather, this is a better question, would you rather be like maybe using your own voice, or would you rather like kind of with an animated voice, in terms of kind of speaking and kind of doing that. What was your kind of preference for that?
I sort of try to using your own voice it's more comfortable because you can't be bad at speaking like yourself, right? Like you can't get talking like yourself wrong, right? Like there's no way. But I think a lot of what it is character creation. And it's so like with a character like Super Alloy or Remy, right? Like who is this character? What are they about? What would they sound like? There's no way, Super Alloy Blackluster would sound like me. Absolutely not. So I had to make what I thought he could sound like,
And that's your creative input in this, or is it like the studio? Like we wanted to sound.
Yeah. Does the studio ask you to kind of, hey, do this, do that?
Oh yeah, of course. Sometimes like Genya in Demon Slayer, right? I auditioned for Tanjiro and Inosuke, right? So they used my Inosuke audition, which was just very and she was like, "Oh, play his Inosuke audition," and then we built Genya's voice kind of around the idea that I had for Inosuke. So she was, they would be like, "Oh, they wanted me to make him sound a little older." And I guess I took out a lot of the animalistic qualities, that was in my Inosuke read. Yeah. And so together, sometimes depending on how you get cast, sometimes you'll be asked to find the voice. Like with Super Alloy, they asked specifically, they didn't really want a lot of heavy-handed accent, right? Like they didn't want him to, they kind of wanted him to sound very neutral.
Right.
I've learned a lot that I will probably take into my own voice acting. Not that I'm aspiring voice actor, but I do a couple of voices here from there. But I will do, I'll add my creative input now and then. But with that said, I think now we can kind of get into the anime portion. I mean, we do this with every person who's a first guest on the show.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to know real quick, how old are you?
I'm 26. He's
26. So this is important because me and Meelz, we're both 30. And so we remember, obviously, when Pokemon, the phenomenon it was when it started in the 90s and all of that. So that's important, man.
First of all, what was your first anime that you remember watching? And what kind of anime did you essentially grow up with?
The first one I remember watching, it's a toss-up between Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon, and I don't know which one it was.
Sailor Moon was earlier in the day than Dragon Ball.
That's why I'm thinking it's probably Sailor Moon. I really do want to say it was Sailor Moon because I remember going to Blockbuster with my dad, and I would always get the same two. I'd always get the same two VHSs. I would always get Sailor Moon and Sonic. And I think I feel like looking back, my dad probably hated that I kept picking up that stupid Sailor Moon VHS.
You already know.
Up a football or something.
I feel it. Right. Yeah, as kids we make our parents. I mean, I never realized it until later on in life how much stuff that we kind of made our parents do and kind of sit through it.
Yeah.
Of course, making my parents sit through the first Pokemon movie or Recess the movie, or any other of the movies and stuff that we kind of go through and talk about that. But yeah, I mean, you can feel free to continue in terms of what kind of other animes were you kind of into when you were younger?
Yeah, I was, and then I grew up with Dragon Ball Z, Zoids, Card Captors.
Zoids.
I watched a lot of the 4Kids stuff, so that's Shaman King, the first couple seasons of One Piece, Fighting Foodons.
Ooh, okay.
Some of these didn't have as much of an impact as others. I love Shaman King, I love Pokemon, I love Dragon Ball Z. And then I think there was something. Naruto, but that Naruto is when I first started realizing anime as a separate entity, to cartoons, right? When I was watching it on 4Kids and things like that, I just kind of jumbled it all into one, into just cartoons, Kirby and Sonic X. I think Naruto was when I was oh, this is separate. Like this is different. Like this is its own thing.
Favorite Dragon Ball character.
Did you enjoy Gundam, Henny?
Real quick.
So I didn't start watching Gundam. The earliest memory I have of Gundam is whichever one he used the burning fingers. I think that was, I don't remember which one that was, but I remember burning fingers. I had the burning fingers Gundam toy because you could switch out the hand. But I didn't watch a lot of Gundam after that. Until I think Iron Blooded Orphans. I did, and then I started watching Unicorn, which is amazing.
Right.
And my favorite Dragon Ball Z character is and will always be Oob. He is black, like me, and that's why he's my favorite.
Oob is okay. Turn up.
I told you, Meelz. I told you, man. We had this discussion separately about Oob.
Yeah.
We've had a long discussion about Oob.
We have.
Oob is an important character to me because I feel like a lot of black kids, I'm pretty sure everybody, but a lot of black kids like got into anime through Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball Z was probably everyone's like gateway anime.
Yeah.
But like for me as someone who loves anime and like grew up on it and like imitated it, as a kid and emulated it and drew, doodles and, and all of that and wrote stories.
You are a brother just like us, yes.
Just like, what I mean?
Straight up.
To give so much of yourself to a creative entity and not see yourself properly represented is very sad, I think. It's very disheartening, I think.
So when you see yourself represented, it's in a very really like
this is as far as we get, So to see Oob, who is like a character of color, he's a good kid. Upon his inception, he is potentially like as strong as the strongest characters that you've grown up with in the show. And then, like, when you play the games and you get to play as him, you get to actually live in his shoes and control him. I think that's why, like, more so than, I mean, I love Oob the character too. Like, he's such a great character, but like, he I don't know. People want to see themselves reflected in what they love, and I think Oob did that for me in Dragon Ball Z. Like, every time I got to play as him, I would.
I will say this, man. When Oob is officially canon and Super, which it kind of is already. I know they kind of hint on it a little bit, man. When they bring him to the animated screen, hey, I hope you're there, man. I hope you're there for real.
I hope so. Awesome. If they give me the opportunity again, I did audition for Oob for Xenoverse 2, but Justin Briner, the voice of Deku, is currently the voice of Oob.
Wow, come on, man! You got enough, bro. Come on, Deku,
cool.
Bro.
They were looking for a voice match. They're looking for a voice match to voice match the first guy who did it, and I think Justin just matched it a little bit better than I could.
All right. I'm just, you got Deku already. Come on, man.
He's great. He's talented.
No, of course. But that's, first of all, that's amazing. That you've gained so much love.
Yeah, I was thankful for the opportunity. Really, really.
I think we can talk about, all right, so we kind of want to talk about, and this is why you kind of line up with this podcast so much and just kind of our ideals, because I wouldn't say everything that you've been in, because there's some stuff that you've been in that we haven't covered yet. We have mentioned them, like Cannon Busters and One Punch Man and a few others that you've been in, but kind of the three pillars, the three things that kind of Jeff and I, and of course the Lookout community, we have people on our team who are fans of these various podcasts. We have people that we talk to, and I love the anime community because it's kind of like at times they're just passionate about kind of the same things you're passionate about, and we're able to kind of talk about it. But you kind of line up in these three certain animes, which is crazy, which is why you're the perfect guest for the show, which is why thank you so much. First of all, we have to talk about My Hero Academia, because we're currently talking about My Hero Academia in our active season. This episode has actually kind of hijacked what we kind of normally do, which is fine. I mean, why the hell not? Because next episode we were going to talk about Stain, and I love that part of the anime, but we have you here, and I kind of want to talk about My Hero Academia. How? Like, how did that happen? How did it happen? And how much in love with kind of the character that you play are you? Or if are you, you know?
Or am I?
Yeah.
So my hero happened because so I know Brittany Lauda in Texas. I think we worked together on something. Oh, we worked together on our friend's thesis film, her art thesis film. So that's how we kind of became acquainted with each other. Now that when they were auditioning, they auditioned in batches, and Rock Lock was coming. So she recommended me out there in Texas to I don't know if it was the director or who, because I think primarily to read for Rock Lock, but they sent me like a packet, like an audition packet for like a bunch of other characters. So at the same time, my agency was also working with getting materials from Funimation. It was pretty much like this very divinely timed, like God was like, look, I'm going to get you in this show. So like they were, so they sent me something, and then I got sent something from the director reached out, because, I was recommended. So, I sent in all my reads. This was before I even auditioned for Hawks, because he wasn't in that packet, and I booked Sakaki. So then I worked, we did the episode with Sakaki in it. And then,
great work, by the way. You really took that, you took that,
you killed that.
Ass swing.
He's actually one of the most fun, characters I've ever played to date. He's just, I don't know what about it made him so fun, but he was just so fun. And also, like, fun fact, like, because the game's out and the dub's out in the game now, I have more lines as Sakaki in the game than I did in the show. I don't know what that's about. But like, I think he had like 5 lines in the anime, and he has like 8 to 10 in the game. And then like after the work with Sakaki, she sent me an audition for Hawks. I was like, oh, can you read this? I'm still casting this. I worked on it for like probably several more hours than I should have. And
knowing that they would like, you know what, your regular voice sounds fine.
Is fine. Honestly, like Hawks isn't even really my regular voice. I guess so, like, but he's definitely like, I definitely pulled down a little bit lower for him, but like not too low. Like I learned there's a very fine line, because I think if it goes too low, it's not him either.
You end up sounding like a Billy D. Williams or something, like
like I don't know. I think if he goes too low, he sounds a little too much like trying it'd be my best Aizawa impression, as opposed to like being Hawks, right? So like, because he, the biggest thing, he's supposed to be cool, so I thought like the lower the voice, the cooler he'd be, and no, it's not working, like just be you, like just, which is also the Billy D like philosophy, like that's how Donald Glover approached it. He was just like, just be cool, like don't try so hard, just be cool about it. So so I auditioned for it. I didn't think I was gonna get it. I spent like several hours doing take after take after take, and then I was like, screw it. Like I prayed on it, and I was just like, all right, God, like you're gonna do what you want to do anyway. Like
this is it.
I'm just gonna do 3 takes of this, and you tell me which ones you want me to send. Right. So then I sent it, and then I was just like, whatever. I can't wait to see this when Matthew Mercer plays him. And then like I got the email in January that I was cast as Hawks, and it was like, oh man, it's kind of surreal.
That's a beautiful thing.
The rest is history. First of all, Hawks has kind of like, in terms of prepping for this, you learn of Hawks, you're reading with Hawks. Do you go to the manga and just like, let me see what happens with this guy? Let's see what's going on over here. Or is like the manga kind of like a pseudo script type of deal?
You only know what you know, or are you fully in depth?
I'm caught up to the manga.
Okay.
So yeah. So
I always felt like I didn't want voice actors to be like, I don't read mangas. I only read.
I mean, there are some. I'm sure there's some people who like don't know, like who have never heard of the character they played, and they just they don't keep up with the manga. I'm not one of those people. I like researching, but then it's a double-edged sword, because sometimes you'll do all this research.
You get too caught up into the character, maybe.
I think for me, like, especially like I started researching Hawks as soon as I got the audition, right? I was like, okay, well, I kind of want to play him. He looks cool. Like, I gotta know how he thinks. I gotta know how he operates. I gotta know his levels so I can accurately capture every facet of the character, right? So then you read the manga, and then you get invested, and then you audition, and you don't get it. Then it makes you not want to read the manga anymore.
Oh yeah, because that would happen with me for sure.
Right?
I'm like, you know what, that guy.
That's
that's real.
Yeah, like that's how I sometimes that's how like I don't know if that's just me being petty, but sometimes I get so invested and then I'm not him and I'm like I can't like I did all that work. So like I started catching up as soon as I auditioned for him just to get an idea, which sometimes can overcomplicate things. That's why you gotta go back to the core of who he is, which is just really cool. And yeah, was that the question? What was the question?
No, that was
the question. That was amazing.
I can that,
no, of course, and this is great timing because kind of like as we do this interview, so I'm going to drop this tomorrow. We struggle back and forth on when we're going to drop this. I will drop this tomorrow. Sure. So this weekend, you have a very momentous debut. First of all, I want to know kind of your thoughts on this because we're building up to this moment, right? Like I'm watching the sub, of course. I'm watching the sub. I see all this go down. I'm like, 1 week, come on, simulcast. Like, that's why we love it. So we're building it up 1 week, and everyone sees the amazing battle that happens at the end of season 4, and they see your involvement in it, and everyone's like, he's about to come up, he's about to show up, and then coronavirus and everything slows everything down. And then you're like, when is the dub coming out? And then it's like, how did you? Was it the same kind of feeling that we have that you have about this entire?
If you guys are like upset about not being able to see it, imagine like not being able to perform it. Like
that's right.
You got this character, you did like I did a few scenes in the movie, and then like I was like, and I knew he was coming to the anime this season. I thought I was gonna have to wait longer. I thought I was gonna have to wait till season 5. But I was like, there were sources that said that Hawks would show up this season, so I was like, oh, okay, well, cool. Like I'll still get to like do some stuff in the anime proper, like that'll be cool. And then like 87 comes by and he's featured heavily in 87, and then 88 has this really cool fight. And then speaking about like anime roles that I've played, like I have yet to play a role where I do a lot of cool fighting sequences. Like Genya doesn't get to do any this season of Demon Slayer.
No.
And
Genya is very interesting. I'll talk about that, but Genya is very.
Kelby doesn't do little to any fighting in Cannon Busters, and even in Dragon Quest, like Harry does all the fighting like at the end. So I love like I want to do the intense fighting stuff. That stuff is like part of why like I love anime and like want to do it just to feel cool. So I was really excited about it. And then like 88 comes out and I'm like, yo, and 88, honestly, like that episode has been like one of the things I've looked forward to performing the most as Hawks. Because like what I love most about Hawks is he goes from cool to really cool, right? Like chill and then he turns it on. He like the switch flips, I think is what makes Hawks so cool. Like he flips switches like that. And I think that's what makes him just so interesting. So yeah, like
no, I was about to say I love also the interactions with Endeavor, right? Like this cool young cat and this like
it's the best
kind of aggy Endeavor play by the rules, like get this kid out of here. Like they're having like lunch and just making funny quips with one another, and I'm just it's amazing. Yes.
But like what it is was I was thinking about it the other day is like I was like, wow, like when you think about it, like this kid is having lunch with his hero. Like, he was inspired by Endeavor and not really All Might, so in the grand scheme of things, like he's working alongside his idol, almost. And I think like he's being really cool about it, but I feel like, I'm wondering like if inside he's like, he feels very gratified that like, this is my idol. This is the guy I've looked up to because I've watched him, try to do the impossible.
Right.
So like I've been very excited I'm very excited for Sunday. Also very nervous because, you know, it's been a long time between the movie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's great, man.
The movie experience looked great. I mean, if you Google yourself on, I don't know why you would, but if you Google yourself, of course, a lot of the red carpet stuff comes up, the interviews come up, the entire Hawks thing comes up. I mean, just that experience itself, it kind of like, I never even think of it. All right, so this, because I'm just so like reading the voice acting and all this other stuff. I never think of like, wow, also movies and stuff like that. Like I'm thinking about it for like Pokemon Journeys, right? Like which we'll talk to in just kind of a little bit. And you talk about like Go and the protagonist of Go. Yeah. And you're not just playing in the show. Like there's movies, there's all these other things like that. And
it's a big deal.
Well, hopefully, yeah, it's a big deal. But with, I mean, this My Hero Academia experience, I think there's so much. I mean, I look forward to it every week. We both are major fans of the show. Yeah. We see that people are major fan of Hawks because of just cool. He represents cool, young hero doing it. What, number 2 already? What? And he's only 20 something? What? That's like turn that up. Like, you know what I'm saying? So
I invested so much. You know, Meelz told me, hey, we're doing season 2 My Hero. I said, cool. My thing is, I'm not just going to watch season 2. I'm going to go ahead and finish, and then I'm going to start reading. And as soon as I got the Hawks, I told him, I was like, I sent Meelz a text. I'm like, yo, who is this? You know, like this is incredible.
I would love to talk a little bit about your experience as Genya and Demon Slayer, because Demon Slayer, I mean, after we did the whole Dragon Ball Z thing and we talked about Dragon Ball Z, I mean, we talked about Dragon Ball Z for 50 episodes and kind of explored various arcs and like various motivations and things. And then the first thing that we kind of captured after Dragon Ball, or wanted to capture after Dragon Ball, was Demon Slayer, because Jeff, once again, it's a text. This is, you know, anime fans kind of talking back and forth. Great show. You need to watch this. Okay. Say no more. Say less.
It's special.
Yeah. So watching the show, and obviously, I mean, there's a moment in the show, I think it's always for everyone. Episode 19 is just kind of one of the most, it's
groundbreaking. In
terms of that part of the show, it's incredible. What drew you to kind of Demon Slayer itself? Because you're playing Genya in the show. You have very seldom lines in the actual first season. It's kind of, I think you may have like a couple. You have 6. One in like episode maybe 6. Is it 6?
I don't know. I think that's episode
4 or 5 or
I think
something.
It's 5, because the first 3 or 4 are just like
3 are training with the ghosts that may not be ghosts. 4 is the actual thing itself, and then you get real Aggie at Tanjiro. Yeah, maybe it was revenge. Maybe it was revenge. How was your experience? How was the experience just kind of with what kind of, well, I want to say this, what drew you to Demon Slayer, and like what's kind of been the experience it's been, considering how this anime has kind of blown up? Does it make you more excited about what's in the future for the character that you're playing?
I am familiar with Demon Slayer because I'm always on the lookout for like animes with protagonists I can play.
Right.
And their anime was announced that the animation was going to be done by Ufotable, who I love from their work on Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, the Shiro versus Gilgamesh fight. So their animation, especially with like swordplay, is always top tier.
Oh man!
And I think they were a relatively slept on studio before Demon Slayer. But I think a lot of people knew about what they could do through like the Fate series, like Fate Zero, Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works. And they did the Token Ranbo anime, but that's what drew me in the most. I was like, oh, okay. I was reading the manga, and then I was like, oh, and the anime is being done by Ufotable. I'm in. And they delivered clearly.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's become just kind of phenomenal. I mean, over in Japan, it's like a phenomenon over here. And then you feel like it's going to come over here and kind of do the same thing. At least we kind of put it up as like, in terms of just a new anime, because we have said, like, you know, compared to what we had as kids, we had a lot of great stuff as kids. We had the Sailor Moons, we had Dragon Ball Z, we had, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Digimon, all this other things. Like, we actually had a lot. And it was kind of like this kind of peak reaching America, kind of doing this thing. But now I think more with the renaissance of new animes that's come back, and like I think Dragon Ball Super has a large part of that because it's kind of a familiar thing that people latch onto. And then you have these great animes, like you have Carol and Tuesday, which is a different type of anime, and you have Haikyuu, which is a different type of anime, and you have Demon Slayer, which is you have so many genres, so many different things, all kind of great, written amazingly and produced amazingly with these great voice actors. Kind of with Demon Slayer, I don't even want to say are you excited, because it's like, yeah. But are you excited? I mean, yes. Are you excited with the things for Genya moving forward? And how do you feel when you actually landed the role for Genya?
I'm very excited about Genya moving forward, because Genya has a great, for anybody listening who's like a fan of who's caught up on the manga, because even though it just ended, he has an excellent character arc that I would love to explore, but I can't wait to explore. The Genya you see in the first episode and the Genya you see in the last episode are two completely different characters, and they're almost literally. And the Genya you see by the end of the manga is a completely different person, than those you see. So he has a great character arc that I love to explore, and he has a really, really cool. The way he fights demons is also really, really interesting and really cool, and I cannot wait to do that. So Genya, like I said earlier, was mostly me. I auditioned for 2 other characters, and then using my Inosuke take, that's how we built Genya, and I was just really excited to
great how that worked out, right?
Yeah.
So you never know, like, when you audition for something, you never know like what a casting director will put you in as. You never know what they're listening to,
right?
Or so
I love what you said about Ufotable. I do want to say this, like, I love, when you can produce anime and not take any episodes off, and I just think they take that so well, man. It's clean. Every episode gives you that content that you desire, and the fight scenes. It's so good, man.
So with that said, I mean, through the constant, I wouldn't say a theme, but the constant build through this entire thing is like you've had these experiences of like, okay, I went out for the protagonist of the series, and then they were like, but what you would be best for is this one.
Right.
I have to applaud you for this one. This next one. I mean, okay. I might have to applaud you literally. Like,
listen. No. This is it, bro. You got to understand, Pokemon means the world to me still as a 30-year-old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I know Meelz as well. This is like, first of all, I know we're both honored to even be talking to you about this character, and congratulations on getting it, because it is a huge deal. And I think it's important that we make sure we pinpoint the fact that it is huge.
It is massively huge. That I don't know if I've already, done too much about it, but Pokemon Journeys coming to Netflix. First of all, did you know it was coming to Netflix? You know what? Let me not ask you that. I don't know. I don't know if you can answer that. I don't know if you can answer that. But Pokemon Journeys, Netflix. I mean, it's the first. Pokemon has kind of been this episodic thing that has lived on, breathed, and continued on television for over, I want to say, 20 years. And I've been a majority of the journey. Definitely coming this Friday. So people are gearing up their Netflix watch parties and things like that, and they're ready to do this. How does it feel to be playing the protagonist in, I've went through this entire podcast without cursing, but I'm sorry, I just got to drop it here. Playing the protagonist in fucking Pokemon, man. How does it feel?
This is huge, man.
What a lot of things came together for that. And it's like a lot of these roles are all about opportunity. So I really would like to highlight my community for being very tolerant. And I had definitely wanted to stop doing anime a while ago, because I felt like I wasn't getting as many opportunities as my peers. I felt like studios were kind of ignoring me. Like I was sending my stuff, and I would only audition for like the black guy, and like I want to be the hero. So somebody recommended me because the casting director, when they were casting, was actually looking for more diversity. It feels monumentous. It really, it's almost undescribable. I feel so incredibly blessed, like, because I grew up on Pokemon. Pokemon was one of the first, animes I watched. One of my first pillows I remember was my dad buying me this like ghetto bootleg Pokemon pillow.
There were plenty.
Right, there was plenty. Yeah. Pokemon, the first movie, was one of the first movies that I ever cried at. So getting to be a part of something that was a part of me in my childhood, and knowing that is potentially shaping other kids like me, their childhood, who look like me and who will can see themselves reflected in Go, is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly gratifying. It's an indescribable honor that I strive to honor and uphold every session.
That's
I'll be doing
so amazing, bro.
It's awesome.
It really is. Like, I'm thinking about it. Like, when I thought about it, it's like he's not just playing Go in like the anime, but it's like in movies, you can come back later down the line when Ash decides to go somewhere else, and you're like, oh, Go's here. Like, you can, like, you're you're like threaded in the history of the show. Yeah. Now you just, and it's an amazing thing. And I'm glad that you said the thing that like Pokemon's looking for more diversity, because I think that's kind of, we need more of that, and it feels like, I don't want to say it's kind of felt like a trend, but I feel like it's becoming something more so that people are like, no, we need this. Like, we need this to actually happen. We can't just continue doing things in the same status quo and just being, I mean, it's easy to be comfortable in doing this, but you're kind of doing a disservice to the fans and the people and all this other stuff. I watched Dragon Ball Z. Oh, I'll tell you this about New York. If you ever go to Court Street Theater in Brooklyn, it is the blackest theater in Brooklyn. It's just,
it's like the magic out here.
Yeah. And I think there's a Magic Johnson theater here too, in Harlem. But and I remember watching Dragon Ball Super movie. I watched it twice, the Broly one.
Yeah.
I watched it twice. I went for the first time in Court Street Theater by myself, and I went with all these kids, and all these kids are black. And legitimately the moment when Vegeta turns Super Saiyan God, and he's going through the air, and it's this beautiful transformation, and his hair is red, and everyone is losing their shit. I was just like, oh my God, this is kind of what it's about. Like, this is this is the connection that we have. But at the same time, it's like you want to be able to also see yourself on that screen, and you want to be able to, put yourself in those shoes, and not just the shoes. Like, we see him, but ultimately that's the character and that's who they're playing it for. But now we see other people and people of color, and the same thing with like all the other voice actors that I mentioned. You even mentioned Rocklock. Rocklock is another character who is like, that's black man right there. Yeah. Like, 100%. And it's like, but for you to have Go, I mean, Pokemon is such a stalwart thing in our lives. Do you have a favorite Pokemon, or do you like
Cyndaquil? Okay. Respect.
Okay. Turn that. Gen 2. Okay. All right. It's a beautiful thing. I don't know how much you can actually talk about the show. I've watched it subbed, so I know I'm still going to watch it dubbed. And I'm glad it's kind of in this format that it is, where they're giving you all these episodes kind of in batches, and you're able to watch it, and you're able to kind of fall in love, and you're able to kind of enjoy it with your family and looking on Netflix and like, oh shit, there you go.
Yeah, I think the Netflix thing for Pokemon is actually more important than, it's going to come off early. I think being able to watch it in that, people like binging, even if it is 4 or 5 episodes at a time, I think it's just important. We can all kind of click with it.
Man, we're so happy for you. I don't even like, This is our first time talking forever, but I've been happy for you for the longest time. You know what I'm saying?
I really appreciate it.
And I know so many people are, and we're 100%, like you said, we're extremely grateful to have you on our platform talking about this and sharing your experiences and kind of how we're able to link with our experiences, because that's kind of what this podcast has always been about. And we just want to continue to say congratulations and we wish you the best.
Man. Straight up. Yeah. Like, we're behind you, bro. Straight up.
I really appreciate that. I like I said, I think Black people love anime. The whole crux of why I fight so hard is Black people love anime, and we should be allowed to do it. You know, we carry a lot of the culture, not just in anime, but just in general in the world. And, you know, I think it would be a disservice of me to not try to highlight and bring awareness to how powerful reflection can be. You know, how powerful it can be to see yourself, to see yourself in the stuff that you love. Like even this interview happened because, you know, we not only have a connection through our shared love for anime, but through our shared culture and through our shared history. Absolutely. And you see yourself reflected in what I do, just like I see myself, or just like I try to reflect you on screen. So I think that's why this is so important. I think that's why this conversation is so important. Yeah. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Seriously.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys for tuning in to episode 60, a very special episode 60.
Yeah.
That we have Zeno Robinson. Thank you again. They can follow you anywhere, right?
Yeah,
At the same,
like literally Childish Gambino everywhere. Like that's literally
kind of Childish Gambino anywhere. You can follow him there and continue to support him, because, you know, it's just amazing the things they've been able to do. You can continue to support us as well at the Lookout RNC. You can continue, you know, of course, you can follow myself at Meelz TV, Meelz TV. You can follow Jeff at Old Newsboy. You can continue to follow everything that we've got with this podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week. Take care.
Thank you.